Hello, this is Scholars Page, and this is a continuation of my Java introduction course. And in the last video, we looked at the basics where we created integers and stored our values to those integers and basically displayed them in our console, as well as we learned how to do simple calculations or simple mathematical problems in Java, for example, addition, subtraction, and so on. In this case, I'll make a new program and we'll talk about how to work with text. Now I'll make a new class and I will call the class working with text. You can name it anything you want. Oh wait, yeah, there's no spaces. That's why in Java we usually capitalize after each word. There can be no spaces in Java. But this time I will not click on the public static void main string args, and I will not let it create automatically. We'll create it ourselves. And of course this is part of the continuation of Java introduction. After we click finish, you can see we don't have a main class. This is just the class or the first class text which is written. Now a shortcut, this is why Eclipse is super useful for this. There are many shortcuts like this. For example, a shortcut you can use to create the main class is if you write main and then click Control Space and hit enter, you'll see it automatically fills out the main class code in the Eclipse workspace. Now of course this is not correctly spaced, because after each of these semicolon or semicolon brackets, you always need to have text one tab in front. And in this case, I'll just select the text we need to tab and press tab once. Now it has been correctly spaced out, so it follows the Java rules. Now in the last video, we learned how to create a variable. For example, int, we give it a name, it can be anything. I give a equals to, let's say, 10, and we can use this variable to display it. But what today we'll be learning is string. Now since all the other primitive data types have used small letters, the first letter is always small. In this case, the s in string is not small. This is because string is a whole class by itself. That's why it does not follow the primitive data type rules. Now let's call string, it can be anything. Let's call it boy. It can be anything you want, and equals to, let's say it equals to hi. Now what's going on here? The main concept of string is that string is actually a class. For example, we can say that dogs. I'm not referring to a specific dog like German Shepherd or Golden Retriever. I'm just classifying them as dogs. That's just a general specification of that class. That's the class of dogs. In the same case, string is just the class name, and we're just giving some variable the class of string, which is different than a normal primitive data type. Now what boy in this case is kind of giving the name to the variable which is being made through the string type. Now I know this might seem confusing, but as we go along you'll probably understand what I mean. But boy basically is the name of the variable that has been given the string class, and hi is just it's just an object that carries that string class. As I gave the example before of dogs. Dogs and string are both classes. It's just a general specification. Now, as another example I gave was German Shepherd. German Shepherd will be the equivalent of hi in this case because it's a specific object from that specific class. So hi is the specific value or specific object in that string class. Now of course if we do sysout and Control Space and then we display the variable of boy and hit run, you can see it prints out hi. This is the first thing you learn with string. but there's actually a lot of things you can do with string. For example, I also give string, let's say let equals space, just a space, and I create another string called go. It can, again, the name can be anything. What it's used for is referring to the string class, and in this case, hi, let's say Jack, just a random person's name I came up with. Now, of course, these quotations marks that you see, this is when you are referencing to text, and this is necessary if you want to talk about text. And of course, in this case, in the primitive data types, you're giving the value to that specific name or that specific variable. But in the case of string, you're referencing a string class and calling a specific object to that string class. So it's different. You're not assigning any values, you're not assigning any letters in this case. You're giving a whole big box to the string class, a whole object. That's why we need to use quotation marks to refer to the objects in the string class. Now, if I sys out, let's say boy plus let and plus go. Plus is used to get multiple variables or multiple name variables inside one system out print command. Now if we hit run, you can see it will display first boy, which is hi, then let, which is a space, and then go, which is Jack. Now that's how we use that's how we can use complex versions of strings. But rather than going through this long process of naming them one by one, what we can do is create another string, which let's call it combination, and we equal it to the other three variables by giving it the, let's say, the object or combination of objects from those other three variables. Now, rather than now if we create another sysout command, rather than going through all of them, if I just sys out the combination variable that we have made, it does the exact same thing as what the previous command had done. Now what you can also do is actually use text inside of a sysout command. So for example, you can use the quotation marks and then say let's go hi plus blank or space plus, let's say, go, hi go, and if we run that, it says hi go. Of course, this is kind of a huge way of doing this, but in the sysout command, usually it has a combination of primitive data type variables and text. This can also mean this also means that you can of course write all of that in one quotation mark. So hi, again, let's use a name as in like Lola, and this also works because it displays all of them together in one quotation marks rather than plussing each of the quotation marks together. But why we use the plus feature for text is, let's use the integer we made up, int a equals 10. Now if I write my age is and columns and write plus a. Now in this case, since a is a primitive data type, it does not have quotations around it. It is a singularity in itself, and it cannot have quotations because at that point it will become the letter A which is being displayed, not the variable A. So in that case, we can't have the A inside of the quotation marks. For example, if I have A inside the quotation marks, it does not take the variable into account. Let's run this. my age is A, it takes the A inside of the text which you're using in the print command. But if I have A outside of the quotation marks, it sees that actually we have created the variable of A, and it uses that variable rather than using the text inside the quotation mark. Now if we press the run button, you see that it says my age is, which is inside the quotation, but then it writes the number 10, which is part of the A variable, and in this case we have made the A variable 10, which is why it says the number 10. Of course we can change the variable by, for example, writing 15, and let's say we also have another int B, which is equals to, let's say, 17, and I add another printout command, which will be with quotation marks my brother's age is, and then I use the second int variable that we have created, B. Now if we run this, you'll see my ages, which is inside of the quotation marks, as well as my brother's age is also inside the quotation marks. Again, is followed suit with the variables that we have declared at the start, which is 15 and 17, which in this case as well as has been displayed 15 and 17. This is how you work with text and string class in Java, and in the next video we'll look at loops and if commands. But that's it for this video, and thank you for watching.